So it's my great pleasure to welcome the final speaker in this session, Associate Professor Anna Barker. Anna is Executive Director of Research and Innovation at Silver Chain. She trained as a physiotherapist, am I correct there? Yes, but has over 20 years of experience in management and leadership with roles in insurance, healthcare, clinical research organizations. She builds teams to deliver impact, lead change, and influence. She's an advocate for human-centered design and transformation of systems. So, thank you, Anna.
Thank you. And first, Gary, well done. What an event. This is the first face-to-face conference that I've attended in over 12 months. And the calibre and quality of presentations has been outstanding. So well done to all of those of you that have presented, and particularly to Gary and the organising committee in what you've achieved. I think it's been a brilliant event, so well done. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit, and I am a clinical trialist by background and a health services researcher, but I'm not here today to present a research project to you or results or findings in any way. I'm actually here to share with you a little bit about the story of Silver Chain and what the next chapter is going to look like. So it's been wonderful to be here today and connect with old colleagues like Chris Reid, who I work with at Monash University, other recent collaborators that have partnered with myself and Silver Chain in some recent NHMRC and MRFF grants. And I think that sort of sheds the light on where we're heading in the future with Silver Chain. And that is that research and innovation is a key driving force around where we're going in the future. The fact that Silver Chain has appointed a clinical trialist to be part of their executive team, I think really signifies the weight and value that Silver Chain is putting on research and innovation as we move forward. So, Silver Chain. I guess many of you know that it was really part of the DNA and is part of the DNA of Western Australia and the health system that we have here. Last year, I think we had over 65,000 clients that we treated throughout Western Australia, and that's a snapshot of what we have in our over 100,000 clients that we treat across Australia each year. So we now have services not only in WA, but in South Australia, Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland. And last year, despite the challenging circumstances that I think we all found ourselves in healthcare with COVID, our service numbers in terms of clients and occasions of service all grew. And I think more than anything, that increased the awareness of and the value of care in the home. And I think it's really highlighted that there is a basic human right for every individual to choose where they receive their care, and for many people that choice is home. I think at Silver Chain we have a really unique position in that we are providers of complex healthcare services in the home. So our palliative care service, I'm sure I don't have to convince anyone here in terms of the specialisation, the complexity of care that we deliver to people that are vulnerable and in those last days of life at home. But in combination with that, we are one of Australia's largest aged care providers and aged care in the home. And I think in COVID, one of the things that it highlighted was the vulnerabilities of our aged care system. And it probably also highlighted the value and the choice and preference of many older individuals to receive care in the home. And that what a wonderful opportunity we have at Silver Chain, not only to provide that more long-term care in terms of aged care in the home, but to overlay on that with the same provider, the delivery of healthcare in the home. That might be hospital in the home, it might be palliative care in the home, might be wound care. So I think this is a unique position that we have in Silver Chain in terms of being able to deliver on a future care vision of healthcare that is this genuine integration of health and aged care in the home. So COVID, what was it like for Silver Chain? Well, like many of you, it was a challenge. I actually started with Silver Chain in July 2020, and I'm from Victoria. I live in Woodend, which is on the other side of the ring of steel that you may have heard about in Victoria that was established in our second wave. So I started with Silver Chain mid-second wave of the pandemic in Victoria. So for the first 3 months of my role in Silver Chain, I sat in my spare room in front of my computer on Teams, like many of us, I guess, and tried to connect with and get to know and integrate with a new organisation and business. But I did, and I felt connected to many of our people. And I think that sort of highlights the opportunity that we have in Silver Chain of being this national provider. So even outside of the COVID pandemic, we're often sitting on Teams and conversing across states with our colleagues. So what did COVID look like for Silver Chain? Well, like all, we responded by activating our pandemic preparation plans that really kicked into action what we needed to do. We set up with military precision a task force, and I mean military precision. So we brought in a contractor who was one of the highest ranking officers in the Australian Defence Force to lead our COVID task force, and she did a brilliant job. And I think this task force represented a great form of agility and cross-functional teams and how you pull together to respond to a common goal and can achieve some really great outcomes. We had also some brilliant partnerships, and Gary, there's been a brilliant theme across this conference around the value of partnerships and collaboration. I think I've heard it in almost every presentation, and that's something that's really important to Silver Chain moving forward as well, is about the establishment of new partnerships and collaborations. But what we did during COVID, like many of you, is we partnered and collaborated with many. So in Queensland, we partnered with the Sunshine Coast Hospital and we delivered hospital in the home to their COVID clients. In Victoria, our staff did the mass testing blitz and participated in supporting the mass testing blitz in the Housing Commission flats. Our nurses worked in residential aged care facilities in Victoria, teaching the nurses and staff about appropriate donning and doffing of PPE. We're advisors to the Commonwealth Government in terms of aged care and how to respond appropriately in terms of COVID. We, like many, ramped up with gusto our telehealth. We moved to a lot of virtual consultations where we could, and to be honest, we had to think creatively about how we control infection in the dynamic environment of people's homes with nurses and staff travelling cars in multiple different areas. It was a very dynamic environment for us to solve. So, in December last year, in the middle of COVID, Silver Chain launched a new strategy towards 2030. And I'm really proud to say that one of the key strategic domains of our future strategy is future care, which is our research and innovation strategic pillar. So we have an ambition at Silver Chain, and that is to reclaim our role as pioneers at the forefront of research and innovation for care in the home. And the way that we want to do this is through partnerships and collaboration. And I really look forward to the conversations that are going to come out of this session today and those that I've already had in the last few days and will continue to develop over the coming months, no doubt. So as we've learnt from COVID, we need to be very agile, and partnerships and collaborations are key. It's the power of the collective input that really is going to generate new knowledge. I think we've seen that in the vaccine development and how we've managed to move so quickly, and the collaboration that's occurred across countries, researchers and innovators to achieve that. So what does research and innovation look like at Silver Chain? Well, part of what we've developed is a 3 work stream strategy around future care. So the 3 work streams are optimise, which is looking at our existing services and how can we optimise them to be as good as they can be. So it really represents health service evaluation. The next work stream, which we're going to focus on, is Innovate. And this is where we're looking at what we can do that is new, that is different. Very much looking at embracing digital and virtual care. The power of AI and big data, I think, is phenomenal, and there is so much opportunity for us to leverage the big data that Silverchain has in its over 130 years of caring for individuals across Australia. The next work stream is Discover, and Discover is probably the traditional academic work stream where we're looking at randomised controlled trials, cost-effectiveness studies, large-scale cohort studies to understand the benefits, impacts, effects, care trajectories that we see in people that we care for across Australia. So across these three work streams, we've got 6 guiding principles that's really going to govern the way that we conduct our research and innovation activity at Silverchain. So number 1 is client first, sensitive and inclusive. It was brilliant to hear the presentations yesterday talking about this power of client and consumer patient engagement and sort of highlighting that it's not just consultation, that it's involving our clients right at the start in identifying what are our research priorities, co-designing what our solutions could look like, and making sure that our clients and consumers are indeed a key player in how we evaluate, monitor, interpret, and create recommendations out of that work that we do as well. The second guiding principle is fostering grassroots innovation. I think that's something that is really important for Silverchain. With our over 4,000 staff that we have, there are brilliant ideas that come up every day from our staff that can solve business problems, create new treatments, new solutions, new services for our clients. So last year we awarded a community nursing future innovator scholarship to one of our enrolled nurses for a brilliant idea that she had about an innovative wound care product. I'm now really excited to say I'm now talking to the patent attorneys, we're looking at commercialisation, and it's an exciting new chapter for Silverchain in terms of moving into this space. Knowledge sharing and advocacy. Silverchain, we're national, we're not-for-profit, we're here to share ideas and really shout it from the rooftops when we've got a great learning about ways that we can improve care. I think we've got great relationships with state and federal governments, so can play a key role in advocating for changes in funding models and the way that care is funded moving forward. Of course, with 130 years of history, we must leverage our historical strengths. There's been several learnings that we've had, both in care provision and research. I think our wound care research is known internationally. The work that Carolyn Carville from Curtin has led and partnered with Silverchain in developing has been a great example of the world-class research that Silverchain is capable of. Growing our core capabilities and strengths. So those 3 work streams that I mentioned, we're appointing 3 new directors to oversee each of those work streams. We've got to bring in new skills and capabilities to Silverchain so that we can support our people, grow those ideas and realise the ambitions that we have. We're also considering how we can set up for the long game. I think all of those of us that have worked in research know that it can be a very tiring journey in terms of the competitive funding environment and always being on the bandwagon to get the next grant to fund the research that we're doing. So part of our strategy at Silverchain is really to look at innovative ways of which we can fund research and innovation moving forward, and that's through philanthropy and it's also through commercialisation. So I might just finish by saying some of our research priorities and areas that we're looking at moving into. I think historically we've had some wonderful work that we've done in wound, palliative, chronic conditions, hospital at home and aged care. But I probably don't have to convince anyone in the room here about the importance of dementia, mental health and cancer, and they're areas that we're looking to grow into in the future. I might stop there, and if there's time for any questions, I'm happy to take them. But if you're hungry for lunch, I understand.
Thank you very much for a fabulous presentation. We've all heard of Silver Chain, and I hope we all know a bit more about what you do.
Thank you.
You're looking for opportunities to partner, philanthropy, academic industry partnerships.
All of the above.
All of the above. So fantastic.